We're going to do a reaction video. Now, this is to a video that I've seen by a creator who has made a couple of videos relating to quantum mechanics and leading it into spiritual questions.
One of the basic concepts in quantum physics can help you answer the question, why doesn't God stop bad things from happening? Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor.
This video is actually a really good example of the spreading of misinformation around quantum mechanics. Now, I say misinformation because I don't actually believe that the person is intentionally trying to spread the wrong message. However, I will also caveat that by saying that they do tend to ignore the comments that correct them in their videos, and they have made multiple videos around this topic, so I'm not sure how open they are to actually learning the realities of the information that they're trying to spread. Now, I also understand that sometimes people want to see connections between like spiritual ideas and quantum mechanics because quantum mechanics is so mysterious to so many people. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to just go through the video bit by bit and let's just talk about the points that he raises. This is not intended to be antagonistic. This is genuinely just meant to be a learning experience for everyone so that we can try to stop spreading misinformation around this topic. So let's get into it.
So we exist in 4 dimensions, which is really interesting because most people think we exist in 3 dimensions, but it's actually 4. And I think Einstein may have been the first person to actually label it this way. But the idea is that we have length, width, height, and time. But Einstein said that our experience of time is interesting because we don't experience all of time. We just experience time as duration, as like this progression from where we are to wherever we are next. So he actually said that we exist in 3.5 dimensions.
Okay, so there's some good stuff here, some questionable stuff, and some wrong stuff. So the first thing is that, yes, we do in physics say that we exist within 4 dimensions, 3 spatial dimensions and 1 time dimension. So we have direction. That's what a dimension is. We say that we can move forwards, backwards, left, right, up, and down. And that gives us 3 spaces. And that's why everything around us is 3-dimensional objects, right? So in order to describe events, you have to say where they are and when they are, in which case that gives us a 4th dimension of time. Now, Einstein was not actually the person who came up with this. This was actually developed, the 4 dimensions of space-time, or showing that space and time are intricately linked, was actually developed by Hermann Minkowski in 1908. So it was Einstein's theory of special relativity that got Minkowski thinking about this, but it was Minkowski who developed the concept of space-time that Einstein then used in his theory of general relativity. The thing that's not factually correct here is that there is absolutely no time or no place ever where Einstein said that we exist in 3.5 dimensions. So we fully experience time as a 4th dimension. We do not partially experience time. There's nothing in science or physics that talks about this.
So when you add time, it takes all the different states of that 3-dimensional space and it includes them all in the time dimension. So you've got all the permutations and infinitely in the time dimension. So if you can imagine that time is all of the states of that 3 dimensions forever, all the different ones that will ever exist. So we don't experience that. We just experience each state as it progresses forward.
Now, for a lot of this video, he's just talking about dimensions and space-time, but he did start out by saying that it was quantum mechanics, and I think he's actually confused himself a little bit. Because what he's saying is, he's talking about like the different states. He's saying like how the time dimension contains all the different states of the 3 dimensions. And I think this is where he's confusing it with quantum mechanics. Because in quantum mechanics, when we talk about atoms or particles, we're talking about their quantum states. But a quantum state is a really specific property. So we're talking about something like a spin or a charge or a magnetic moment of a specific particle. That's a quantum state that we talk about. And when we talk about superposition, what we say is that the atom or the particle is in a quantum superposition of all possible quantum states at that moment in time. So I think that he's maybe conflating that idea with then 3-dimensional space and what we mean when we talk about like just direction for us as these large beings.
Because here's the mind-blowing piece. Quantum physics postulates that there are 10 different dimensions.
Okay, no, it does not. This is completely inaccurate. Quantum physics does not in any way postulate 10 different dimensions. There are some branches of string theory that propose 10 dimensions. There are also branches that propose 11 dimensions. There are different ideas and concepts out there, but that's not connected to what we know and understand of quantum mechanics as it stands today. There's no expectation in quantum mechanics of any extra dimensions beyond the 3 of space and the 1 of time. String theory is unproven and untestable.
So if we experience 3.5, right? Or let's just pretend it's 4 to make the math easier.
It is 4. It's absolutely not 3.5. There's nowhere in physics anywhere that it says it's 3.5. It is absolutely 4 dimensions.
There's 6 additional dimensions that add all the permutations of the dimensions below it, maybe. The other option is they are tiny curled up dimensions that are within the other dimensions, and that will make your brain explode if you try to understand what that is.
I think he's trying to go somewhere different with this concept of the dimensions and the permutations of the dimensions being contained, but I'm not sure where he's trying to go with it. So the idea that the dimensions are curled up, it's actually really simple for us to try to visualize. If you're walking along the beach, you are walking in one direction, one dimension, walking along that straight line along the beach. But as you're walking, you're passing over millions of grains of sand. But the sand is so small that you can't possibly experience walking on a single grain of sand. That's what it means when we talk about these curled up dimensions, that there could be these directions that are so curled up and so small that we're too large to actually experience passing over these dimensions. So the dimension that we have is our 3 dimensions. Where he's going with what these 6 other ones would contain all the permutations of the dimensions, but that doesn't really mean anything, because like 3 dimensions exists and it contains 2 dimensions and it contains 1 dimension. If there were 4 spatial dimensions, well then it would also, within 4-dimensional space, there would also be 3 dimensions, 2 dimensions, and 1 dimension. But we experience this already. Like we look at images that are 2-dimensional. We can draw a line which is 1-dimensional. It's just a part of our experience. It's nothing really mysterious to it.
But let's stick with the easy version. So let's just say that God occupies all of the 4 dimensions that we occupy and occupies them fully. That means that God experiences all of time as what one philosopher called an eternal now.
Okay. He's moved on to something called the Bloch universe, which is a philosophical idea that is connected to space-time and relativity, and it doesn't actually have anything to do with quantum mechanics at all. If we look at this is the Minkowski space-time diagram, right? So space is along one axis, time is along another, and then the light cone is what we experience. So events in the past travel towards us in our present, and events in our present will travel, light from that will travel towards the future. That's just how information passes, okay? It takes time for information to move through space. Now, in the Bloch universe concept, so when we're in a point in space and time, what it's basically saying is, rather than having a singular point of the present, what you actually have is that all of time along this axis also exists at this same moment.
So when you think about that question, why doesn't God stop bad things from happening? It's very much related to time, right? It's like, why did God not act before this thing happened? But when you talk about God existing in all the dimensions, there is no before, there is no after with God. God is experiencing the eternal now.
But if God is experiencing the eternal now, and if God created everything, then that means that God is eternally aware of every single thing, which means that God already knew what he was creating, in which case it's perfectly reasonable to say, well, why would God let that happen?
And if you want to get really crazy, super nerdy, if God exists in all the 10 dimensions, even if he just exists in one more would take basically all the possible timelines and include them in a bigger dimension, and God existing in that, well, we don't even have enough time on TikTok to really dig into that.
That's not true. Okay, so I don't know where he's getting this idea that if you add another dimension, then you suddenly have all the different timelines. There's only two things that are happening. We have space and we have time. So you're either adding another spatial dimension, which is what we've been talking about this entire time. These 10 dimensions of string theory are spatial dimensions. They have absolutely nothing to do with time. There's still only one dimension of time. There are a lot of different concepts in this video that are all being kind of confused together into something else.
Some philosophers have said that when people get into deep states of meditation or all kinds of things like this, that there are moments in which they glimpse the fourth dimension fully. And it's not been me, but I love that idea. I love it so much. And yeah, I hope this helps.
Now, I think it's really cool that people want to learn about this kind of stuff and people want to get into it. And it's so fun as well in ways where it's like, you know, there's mysterious and there's stuff, and there's just process of kind of figuring things out and just the madness of some of the concepts that we have in physics. But we have to be really careful. So just to summarize what we're talking about here. Now, I have no personal feeling in terms of the spirituality side of things. That is, I'm not critical of that in any way. That is, you know, people can believe whatever they want to believe, and I don't have any feelings towards that. But when we're talking about the science, I just want to say that the video started out by saying that it was going to talk about quantum mechanics. It did not talk about quantum mechanics. The video proceeded to talk about space-time. It then talked about the Bloch universe, which is a philosophical idea. It is not a scientific premise. There's a bit of misquoting in there from Einstein and a bit of misunderstanding of where the concept of space-time comes from. There's also a misunderstanding about what the concept of extra dimensions are in terms of the 10 dimensions of some models of string theory, which is, again, not quantum mechanics. So yeah, be careful with where you're getting your information from. Keep learning, keep trying to learn, keep wanting to be curious, but just be very careful, be critical, ask questions, but stay nerdy. Thanks for watching. And if you see any videos or news articles or you get any piece of information and you're just not really sure what to think about it, just let me know and I'll see if I can have a look at it.